Natali Horangapai Tomavina Kechamara Tamadasakoi Natali Horangapai. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Hari, having wasted my life, although I have taken this rare human birth, I have not served Radha and Krishna, and thus I have knowingly drunk poison. The treasure of divine love in Goloka Vrindavan has descended as the congregational chanting of the Lord's holy names. Why did my attraction for that chanting never come about? Day and night my heart burns in the fire of the poison of worldliness, and I have not accepted the means for reviving it, or for relieving it. Lord Krishna, the son of the king of Vraja, became the son of Shachi, and Balaram became Nitai. The holy name delivered all those who were lowly and wretched. The two sinners, Jagai and Madhai, are evidence of this. O Lord Krishna, son of Nanda Maharaj, accompanied by the daughter of Rishabhanu, please be merciful to me now. Narottam Das says, O Lord, please do not push me away from your reddish lotus feet, for who is my beloved except for you? Srila Narottam Das Thakur Ki Jai. Now we will read from Bhagavad Gita. Om Agyana Timarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatan Vitam Tam Sujivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Panchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. We're on chapter 1, observing the armies on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and I believe we're on text 27. And we can read the Sanskrit together. Tan samiksha sakunteya sarvan bandhun avastitan kripaya paraya vishnu vishidan idam abravit. When the son of Kunti, Arjuna, saw all these different grades of friends and relatives, he became overwhelmed with compassion and spoke thus. Arjuna uvacha drishtve mam svajanam Krishna yuyutsum samupashtitam sidanti mamagatrani mukham cha parishushayati. Arjuna said, My dear Krishna, seeing my friends and relatives present before me in such a fighting spirit, I feel the limbs of my body quivering and my mouth drying up. Vipatushcha sharire me romaharshascha jayate gandivam ramsate hastat tvakchaiva paridahyate. My whole body is trembling and my hair is standing on end. My bow Gandiva is slipping from my hand and my skin is burning. Nacha shaknom yavashtatum brahmativa chame manaha nimitani cha pashyami viparitani keshava. I am now unable to stand here any longer. I am forgetting myself and my mind is reeling. I foresee only evil, O killer of the Keshi demon. Na cha shreyo nupashyami patva svajanam ahave na kankshe vijayam Krishna na cha rajyam sukani cha. I do not see how any good can come from killing my own kinsmen in this battle, nor can I, my dear Krishna, desire any subsequent victory, kingdom, or happiness. Kim no rajina govinda, kim boger jivitena va, yesham arte kankshitam no, rajam boga sukanicha, ta ime vashtita yudhe, pranams chaktva dananicha, acharya pitara putras, tataiva cha pitamaha, matula svashura putra, Shyala bandinastata etanna hantumichami gato pi madhusudana api trilokya rajasya heto kim nu mahi krite nihatya dhartarashtrana kapitri sajanardana. O Govinda, of what avail to us are kingdoms, happiness, or even life itself, when all those for whom we may desire them now are arrayed in this battlefield? O Madhusudana, when teachers, fathers, grandfathers, maternal uncles, fathers-in-law, grandsons, brothers-in-law, and all relatives are ready to give up their lives and properties and are standing before me, then why should I wish to kill them, though I may survive? O maintainer of all creatures, I am not prepared to fight with them even in exchange for the three worlds, let alone this earth. Apam eva shrayed asman hatvaitan atata ina tasman narha vayam hantum dartarashtran svabandavan svajanam hikatam hatva sukina shama madhava. Sin will overcome us if we slay such aggressors. Therefore, it is not proper for us to kill the sons of Dhritarashtra and our friends. What should we gain, O Krishna, husband of the goddess of fortune? And how could we be happy by killing our own kinsmen? Yad yapyete na pashyanti lobo pahata chetasaha kulakshaya kritam dosham mitra drohe chapatakam katam nagyayam asmabi papad asman nivartitum kulakshaya kritam dosham prapashyad bir janardana. O Janardana, although these men, overtaken by greed, see no fault in killing one's family or quarreling with friends, why should we, with knowledge of the sin, engage in these acts? Now we can go back to text 27. When the son of Kunti, Arjuna, saw all these different grades of friends and relatives, he became overwhelmed with compassion and spoke thus. Arjuna said, "My dear Krishna, seeing my friends and relatives present before me in such a fighting spirit, I feel the limbs of my body quivering and my mouth drying up." Purport. Any man who has genuine devotion to the Lord has all the good qualities which are found in godly persons or in the demigods, whereas the non-devotee, however attached he may be in material qualifications by education and culture, lacks in godly qualities. As such, Arjuna, just after seeing his kinsmen, friends, and relatives on the battlefield, was at once overwhelmed by compassion for them, who had so decided to fight amongst themselves. As far as his soldiers were concerned, he was sympathetic from the beginning, but he felt compassion even for the soldiers of the opposite party, foreseeing their imminent death. And so thinking, the limbs of his body began to quiver, and his mouth became dry. He was more or less astonished to see their fighting spirit. Practically the whole community, all blood relatives of Arjuna, had come to fight with him. This overwhelmed a kind devotee like Arjuna. Although it is not mentioned here, still one can easily imagine that not only were Arjuna's bodily limbs quivering and his mouth drying up, but that he was also crying out of compassion. Such symptoms in Arjuna were not due to weakness, but to his soft-heartedness, a characteristic of a pure devotee of the Lord. It is said, therefore, Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavatya kinshana sarver gunais tatra samasate suraha harava bhaktasya kuto mahadguna manoratena sati davato bahihi. One who has unflinching devotion for the personality of Godhead has all the good qualities of the demigods, but one who is not a devotee of the Lord has only material qualifications that are of little value. This is because he is hovering on the mental plane and is certain to be attracted by the glaring material energy. Is Maharaj online? Does he? And if so, would he like to speak anything on the verses? No. Okay. So, Arjuna is in this predicament, and he's addressing Krishna that, as we read in a couple texts. Let's see. I do not see how any good can come from killing my own kinsmen in this battle, nor can I, my dear Krishna, desire any subsequent victory, kingdom, or happiness. So when he's speaking to Krishna, he's speaking of, he doesn't want to engage in this fight against my own men, my own kinsmen. And this is one part of the misconception that's happening due to the bodily concept of life. He's thinking that this group of people here, these ones are my men, and therefore I shouldn't attack them. And so like this, many people are thinking, I'll fight for my group or my own kinsmen. But a devotee of the Lord understands that actually we're not this body or anything going along with it, whether it's the family, the community, the society, or the nation. Because the devotee is seeing on the spiritual platform, he's seeing that actually this body is a temporary covering of the eternal soul. So actually my men or my kinsmen would mean all living beings, because each one of them is a spiritual soul, part and parcel of the supreme soul, Krishna. So Arjuna is caught in this predicament of being on this mental platform that is described at the end of the purport. So people may do so many things to try to make some moral or pious endeavor in the world, but as long as the center of whatever they're doing is wrong, as long as they're thinking that I'm this body and everyone else is their body, So therefore, I'll help the bodies that are in relation to me, whether it's my family, my nation, or whatever. As long as this is the motive behind any activity, it's actually a waste of time, because it's on the mental plane. It's not actually based on reality, because there is one layer of reality, which is that there's this material world, and we have these material coverings over all of the living beings. But beyond that is that every living being is eternally related as a son of God, or a part and parcel of the supreme being, Krishna. So just trying to care for the dying, for the dress of a dying man doesn't actually do anything significant. This body is more or less like a dress, like a jacket. This chador I'm wearing, it's moving around because I'm moving around under it. Similarly, this body is moving around because I'm moving around under it, the soul. And Krishna describes that soul in the Bhagavad Gita. Actually, in all of the Vedic literature, it's understood that the soul is 1/10,000th the size, the tip of the hair. And that soul is seated in the heart of the living being, just like a driver is seated on a machine. So the body is more or less just a machine. If our car gets some scratch or some damage, it's not the end of the world. We don't base our entire life and all of our activities just around the condition of our car. But what's important is to care about the person who's in the car. So similarly, we should care about the driver of this body, the soul. And the best way to do that is to accept Krishna consciousness, and then also give Krishna consciousness to others. Because without knowing who's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who we are, or what's the goal of life, then there's no progress really being made. All the activities of someone without transcendental knowledge, they're just on the mental platform. So it's just based on this mind, and it can change at any time. So if we want real truth that doesn't change, if we want to see reality as it is, then we have to take to this process of Krishna consciousness by hearing from the person who made it all, Krishna, or his bona fide representative. And what makes a representative of Krishna is that they're not changing anything that he says. So Arjuna is soon going to come to terms with this predicament and realize that he needs guidance in this situation. Here we'll read a little bit more. My whole body is trembling and my hair is standing on end. My bow Gandiva is slipping from my hand and my skin is burning. Purport. There are two kinds of trembling of the body and two kinds of standing of the hair on end. Such phenomena occur either in great spiritual ecstasy or out of great fear under material conditions. There is no fear in transcendental realization. Arjuna's symptoms in this situation are out of material fear, namely loss of life. This is evident from other symptoms also. He became so impatient that his famous bow, Gandiva, was slipping from his hands. And because his heart was burning within him, he was feeling a burning sensation of the skin. All these are due to a material conception of life. So this material conception of life is more or less a false conception. As long as we're identifying with this body,
be performing activities to make this body more comfortable, or to make the things around my body more of a nice habitable situation, then we're actually furthering the illusion that we're in. Because we're not this temporary body, which is full of ignorance. You know, the body doesn't have full knowledge. It's full of miseries. It gets disease and all sorts of accidents and suffering. And then it's temporary. We're not those things. We don't have anything to do actually with misery, temporality, and ignorance, because the soul is totally different from those things. The symptoms of the soul is Sat, Chit, and Ananda. Sat means eternal. That's a quality of who we are. And we can see that that's true because no one in this world wants to die. Everyone will instantly, instinctually try to protect themselves if there's any kind of danger. And even before there's any danger, people take so many measures to protect themselves with vitamins, good health, good insurance, safe home, the doorbell with the camera on it that shows you who's outside when you click it. And then the other quality of the soul is chit. That means knowledge. And we can also practically see that every endeavor that people are doing is to gain some knowledge. Even movies, they want to absorb some information through the eyes and the ears. People go to learn from a teacher for so many years and get degrees. People are gathering knowledge in so many ways. People are glued to their phone all day long, looking up things that they never needed to know. Like,
anyway, so many different things. And then the other quality of the soul is ananda, which means bliss. We can also see this because no one in the world is trying to be miserable, but everyone's trying to be happy. Everyone's trying to do some endeavor to make ourselves happy, or those in relation to ourselves happy. Because if we make our friends happy, or our family, or our society, then in some way we also become happy through that endeavor. And we see no one is trying for misery. There's no one who goes to school to get a 6-year degree on how to be unhappy or how to be miserable. But everyone's trying for happiness. Because these things are who we really are. Sat Chit Ananda, eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. And we can really experience that when we come to real knowledge, this transcendental knowledge. So by reviving our dormant Krishna consciousness, which is very simple because it's the natural condition of the soul, then we can remember who we are in terms of these qualities: eternal, full of bliss, and full of knowledge. But as long as we're doing activities that aren't actually helping us become self-realized, if that's not the goal of our endeavor, then we're simply becoming more and more in illusion. We're identifying more and more with this temporary body and all of its hang-ups. So this is the state that Arjuna is in here. He's an eternal associate of the Lord, but Krishna, he is appearing in different millenniums at different times to reestablish religious principles, to annihilate the demons, and to protect the devotees. He really comes to have to experience the relationship between him and his devotees. But so when he comes to a particular place and time, he brings all of his associates with him. So it's almost like a big play or a big road show. So it's not that Arjuna is really in ignorance, but Krishna is making the perfect circumstance where they can be in this particular situation for the benefit of all living beings. We can hear it today and gain knowledge of how we came into this material world, why we're here, who we are, how we can get out of this temporary material predicament and back to our eternal blissful life in the spiritual world. It's like a nice road show. Krishna comes and he's so amazing. So when the living entity becomes envious of the Supreme Lord and wants to try to be the Lord of all I survey, then we come to this material world and get covered by a material body. But Krishna is so amazing, so he just comes and he shows himself and what he does, and that's all it takes to attract us back to the spiritual world. If we just hear about him, we become purified. We get out of this illusion of thinking I can be the supreme and let me try to lord it over in my own small way. But then we see who the supreme actually is and we become purified. We realize, wow, there's nothing better than this person. Let me try to serve him because that's what I'm actually made for. We come from Krishna, so just like a part of the body is meant to serve the whole body, just like the hand, if it tries to enjoy food on its own, it'll shrivel up. But if it gives the food to the stomach, the hand's benefited, the whole body is benefited. It's like that. We're part and parcel of Krishna. So everyone is trying to render some service. That's the natural position of the living entity. We can see everyone tries to get happiness via rendering some sort of service. Someone tries to serve their family or their nation or their friends, or if they have no one to serve at the end of the day, they'll get a nice dog and serve that dog. But when we take this natural service propensity and put it back to where we originally had it, which was in our service to Krishna, then we actually become satisfied and everyone becomes satisfied. Just like when the hand gives the food to the stomach, or when we water the root of the tree. If we try to water each leaf, the tree not much happens. But we put the water on the root and it's distributed throughout the whole body of the tree. So we put our natural service propensity towards Krishna, the Supreme Being, and naturally everything is benefited. But now we're seeing what the material situation is in the form of Arjuna's predicament. So are there any comments or questions so far? I said a lot of kind of different points. There might be questions, objections, corrections. Yes, Bhakti Gio?
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the nice talk so far, Prabhu. In relation to what you were saying about the temporary existence of the living entity and what he does to keep it fit and healthy through vitamins and so many different supplements. I was listening to a lecture, and Srila Prabhupada was saying that if we offer our food to Krishna, then we get all the vitamins, all the nutrients, all the necessary ingredients that we need to keep our body fit and strong. But we have to offer it as sacrifice. So he gave an example where he said that he had a servant, and he asked his servant one day, he was like, how, because his servant was like really strong, he was like really big, and he was asking his servant, he was saying, how do you get so strong? Like, what do you do? What do you eat? And the servant simply said that he had cornmeal, which is pretty amazing. I mean, cornmeal is a pretty simple food stuff, but it is, if you think about it, it's like halva. It's so filling, and it gives you so much strength, and it fills your stomach so much that you're able to do so much service. So this is what he said was what he did. He just had cornmeal. So we can see that even though I don't know if it was offered, but even though I'm trying to remember what my point was.
You're saying people can get all their vitamins and nutrition
yeah,
if they offer the food as sacrifice?
They can get a longer life by they can't get an eternal life, but they can get a longer life simply by offering their foodstuff to Krishna as sacrifice. So this was a point that he was making. Of course, I'm on chapter 3 of Bhagavad Gita, so he was giving a lecture on sacrifice exclusively because that's where I'm at in the Bhagavad Gita. So, but yeah, that was something that I thought was pretty interesting, and it connects to the lecture. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, just by this simple process of actually offering our food stuff to Krishna and then taking the remnants of the food that has been offered to him, we can actually remember our eternal spiritual nature. We can become Krishnaized, spiritualized, just by taking Krishna prasadam. So even a process as simple as eating can help us become Krishna conscious. and bring us back to our eternal position in the spiritual world. So that's a very nice point. Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments so far? Okay, so we can see more about this predicament that Arjuna is in. I am now unable to stand here any longer. I am forgetting myself and my mind is reeling. I foresee only evil, O killer of the Keshe demon. Due to his impatience, Arjuna was unable to stay on the battlefield, and he was forgetting himself on account of the weakness of his mind. Excessive attachment for material things puts a man in a bewildering condition of existence. Vayam dvitiya biniveshataha. Such fearfulness and loss of mental equilibrium take place in persons who are too affected by material conditions. This is actually a nice point on another reason that we can see that this material world is in our home, because we're always in so many anxieties. There's always so many problems. We try to make a permanent situation here, but there's never any permanent situation. Try to get a nice house or some comfortable arrangement or a healthy body or whatever it is, but they all deteriorate. So we can tell this is definitely not our home, because we're trying to make some permanent situation. We're trying to be free from stress, but there's always stresses, there's always anxieties, and nothing is lasting. So where is that place that is lasting? That is what Krishna is going to show to Arjuna, and how we can get there by the sublime process of devotional service. Arjuna envisioned only unhappiness on the battlefield. He would not be happy even by gaining victory over the foe. The word nimitta is significant. When a man sees only frustration in his expectations, he thinks, why am I here? Everyone is interested in himself and his own welfare. No one is interested in the supreme self. Arjuna is supposed to show disregard for self-interest by submission to the will of Krishna, who is everyone's real self-interest. The conditioned soul forgets this and therefore suffers material pains. Arjuna thought that his victory in the battle would only be a cause of lamentation for him. So as long as we're identifying with the body and acting simply for the sake of this temporary existence of this body, then we'll always be in a fearful condition, because the body's not going to last. And there's not really any security for it. If I'm just endeavoring for the body and its protection, then that means ultimately, in that sort of illusion, ultimately its protection is all up to me. So that's not a very good position, because I'm not unlimitedly strong or unlimitedly knowledgeable or aware of things around me. So it's a fearful position. But if we take shelter of Krishna, then there's no fear and there's no anxiety. Just like if a small child, he's running from kids who want to hit him with sticks and stones, if he runs to the police office, then right when he gets there, he knows, okay, there's no more fear if they're good policemen, because he's taking shelter of someone much more superior to him. So what to speak of Krishna, who's the most supreme being? He's full in all strength, all wealth, all beauty, all knowledge, everything. If we take shelter of him, then there's no fear. On the battle of Kurukshetra, Arjuna, he was facing the greatest warriors ever. These warriors, some of them were called Maharathis. They could fight with thousands of soldiers at one time and destroy all of those soldiers, no problem. And Arjuna, he's not the biggest soldier. He's not the most senior one either. He's younger than many of them. And some of them are much greater than him. But just because he had Krishna there as his friend and chariot driver, they came out without a scratch, essentially. They're on the chariot, and Krishna's he's in control of everything, so there's no fear. There was, at one point, there's an arrow that's supposed to hit Arjuna's head. Krishna just sinks the chariot a little bit lower. The arrow just knocks off his crown instead. So Krishna is a person, and he's the supreme person. And if we're on his side, then there's no fear, because like he explains in the Bhagavad Gita, everything is resting on him. He's in control. So if we want more control or more stability in life, there's no better place to look for it than Krishna, the person who owns everything, who's in control of everything. Yes, Magadari Prabhu?
There was something that got brought up called the mental platform. And I'm wondering what the mental platform has to do with faith and trust.
Well, our mind is always accepting and rejecting things. So if we're on the bodily platform of life, then our mind is just accepting and rejecting things that are good for my senses and my sense gratification. So if it's good for my senses, I'll take it. If it's not good for my senses, I don't need it. So on the bodily platform of life, there is no trust, or what were the other, you said faith? Yeah, there's no faith, or you can't have faith in someone who's on the mental platform because their senses are not controlled. So then you can't trust someone in that position, because as long as my senses are controlling me, then it doesn't matter what's right or what's wrong. I'll just do whatever it takes to satisfy the different urges of the senses. So the belly is growling and you have some food I want, then take it. But if someone is on the spiritual platform, meaning they understand, I'm not this body, but I'm the eternal servant of Krishna, so I should do things for his satisfaction, then you can actually trust such a person, because their senses are automatically controlled, because their senses are being engaged in the service of Krishna. So instead of, you have some food, I want it, take it. It might be, you have some food, hey, let's make a nice offering for Krishna out of it. And how can we help each other serve Krishna? That's the spiritual platform. And so on this platform, then there's real unity, there's real friendship. All these things that people are striving for in the world, they're possible when people understand who is God, who am I, and they understand that God is the supreme proprietor, the supreme controller, the supreme friend. That's Krishna. So when we know that, then there's real brotherhood and real unity. It doesn't matter what someone looks like or where they're from. We can actually work together to satisfy our Supreme Father, or Krishna. Are there any other comments or questions or disagreements or objections? Yes, Magadari Prabhu?
So if somebody is constantly being tormented by the mind, and we feel like heavy influences, different material desires pulling our attention, we can't really focus on spiritual life. Does that mean that we don't have faith in the process, or we don't have faith in Krishna? Or, how that I'm kind of looking from the other side. Like you explained it, we can't have faith in such a person because they may go at any time to do something that their mind tells them they have to do. But if somebody like me is on the mental platform, does it mean my faith in the process or my faith in Krishna is lacking?
Well, if we're on the mental platform, that's natural, because we've been in the mental platform in 8,400,000 different species of bodies in this material world. So the way that we get off the mental platform is we sincerely means if a structure is sincere, there's no cracks in it. So we sincerely take to this process of Krishna consciousness. So the best way to do that would be to fully engage in the program, the schedule that Srila Prabhupada has given us. So if we're having these troubles with the mind and material desires and these things which are natural because they've been with us for millions of births in this material world, then we just take the process that is there for purifying them and for correcting them. So that means we really strongly dive into the morning program. It means we dance in the kirtan. That means we're there for the whole morning program, the Mangal Arti, the Japa, the Guru Puja, and the Srimad Bhagavatam class. We're there for the whole thing because it's a perfect process that Srila Prabhupada gave. And then there's also the evening arti that we do in hearing Bhagavad Gita. So when we're engaging in all these activities, they're putting Krishna in the center the whole time. And Krishna is the most pure. So easily, by associating with the most pure person, our minds purified, our whatever else, our body, some bodily disease purified, our speech is purified, everything is getting purified. So we just take to it without any cracks. Not that I jump into the morning program and then I leave it early, or I do this one process or this one program and not the other one. But if we fully take to the process that Srila Prabhupada gave us, it's the medicine that we need. And the more we go away from it, then the more we'll just go back to the same position that we were in before we tried it out, which was, mental platform, material desires, all of these things. But if those things are coming up again, then we know, okay, now's a good time to just dive into it. I'll just do the whole thing. No breaks, no shortcuts, no nonsense. It's all there. It's a full package. Any other comments or questions? Okay, we'll read just a little bit more. I do not see how any good can come from killing my own. Did we read that? No. I do not see how any good can come from killing my own kinsman. In this battle, nor can I, my dear Krishna, desire any subsequent victory, kingdom, or happiness. Purport. Without knowing that one's self-interest is in Vishnu or Krishna, conditioned souls are attracted by bodily relationships, hoping to be happy in such situations. Under delusion, they forget that Krishna is also the cause of material happiness. Arjuna appears to have forgotten the moral codes for a Kshatriya. It is said that two kinds of men, namely the Kshatriya who dies directly in front of the battlefield under Krishna's personal orders, and the person in the renounced order of life who is absolutely devoted to spiritual culture, are eligible to enter into the sun globe, which is so powerful and dazzling. Arjuna is reluctant even to kill his enemies, let alone his relatives. He thought that by killing his kinsmen, there would be no happiness in his life, and therefore he was not willing to fight, just as a person who does not feel hunger is not inclined to cook. He has now decided to go into the forest and live a secluded life of frustration. But as a Kshatriya, he requires a kingdom for his subsistence, because the Kshatriyas cannot engage themselves in any other occupation. But Arjuna has no kingdom. Arjuna's sole opportunity for gaining a kingdom lay in fighting with his cousins and brothers and reclaiming the kingdom inherited from his father, which he does not like to do. Therefore, he considers himself fit to go to the forest and live a secluded life of frustration. Tune in next time for the stunning conclusion to Arjuna's predicament on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Next time on Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is. Srila Prabhupada